Hong Kong is already not very big, but most of the networking happening on Hong Kong Island between Causeway Bay and Central, and almost on a walking distance, and so it is quite easy. And you will find out after a while, and maybe some of you want to settle down in Hong Kong. Maybe after, I think, half year or so, if you're very active, you start to know the people. And if you cannot attend all those different networking, make sure you sometimes have a quick bite, a breakfast meeting or lunch meeting with some key person in a certain association, in order to keep sort of update on what is happening. Yeah.
So in terms of that networking, it's interesting just on the Twitter note that you haven't found that like a barrier to your effective networking associations as of yet.
I guess we are very spoiled in Hong Kong because it's so easy, and to do that, to a certain extent, we are less reliant on the social media. Yeah, and also depends on what level you are networking. We still have sort of the old families here in Hong Kong, and even though you have a Twitter account or LinkedIn, you don't never get into that circle if you are not properly introduced. Yeah, there is still, and there at the top level, there is still a sort of barrier. But having said that, once you get in, then you know the whole clan. Yeah.
So yeah, continue on on the networking, because basically from each and every speaker we had so far, networking is like insanely important. Also, like you said, like how you get your business and everything. And like for my struggle is when I was also talking to Andrea about it, it's like the networking. So okay, at this point we don't have like really anything to offer. So first of all, how do you get like invited to those networking events? And even more important, when you start talking to people, how do you get them like to recognize you and to like remember you? So like, I mean, of course I can talk to them, but then if I'm nobody, you just forget about me and then it's gone. How do you like get someone to...
All beginners, they will have to face the same problem. In the first half year when I came to Hong Kong, I'm fresh grad. Of course, I do work for a bank, and but the title is assistant manager. So people, they look and say, oh, they go away. We encountered a similar situation. But I guess you have to look for those people who are facing sort of similar situation. And then you say, I come to network for people who are important, but then you will feel yourself adopt the same attitude. You understand what I'm saying? Because you will not go to people who has no value to you as well. But I guess if you can it is a perception. If I'm a little bit more senior guy, and I see one guy sort of losing as a ghost around and knowing not to do, and then I tend to not to go there. And however, if maybe 2 or 3 youngsters, they are grouping there and having a chat, then you maybe feel more comfortable, easy to approach one person. So you have to bundle a little bit the strength of the newcomers and try to go to a person who is more senior. In fact, you guys have a common goal, which is in the networking and to talk to people who can offer you something. And that is how I did it. And of course, it is always, but particularly in Asia, it is easier. I guess also in Europe, if you are a lady and you dress well, you are, particularly if you're good looking, of course, it is always good. And always prepare your elevator pitch. That you have to be able, that you must be able to talk, to capture the attention in 2 minutes time. Yeah, if you cannot do that, then it's gone. And I guess you have to do a little bit of homework. That's what I just share. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, but I just share some of my experience. Is that if you go there to a network event, you have to do a little bit of homework. You have to say which organization is organizing this. What is the theme? What possible people are there? Maybe if you were able to ask what kind of people are coming there.
How do you get into those networking events? How to get in?
you can for you guys, because you are from a various country, the easy entrance is to go to the business association of your own country. Like in Portugal, I think we don't have a Portugal, we have a Spanish business association. And I'm Dutch, so I go to the Dutch Business Association. Okay. On the internet. Nowadays, you're living in the Google world, so let's go and find out to see whether there are business associations, trade association of your country, because that is the easy entrance. Because you are from that country, and most of those organizations somehow they have a link with the consulate, so they feel a sort of obliged also to make sure their home citizens is being taken care of. And that is each other. You come from where?
Holland.
Oh, from Holland. Okay, there's a Dutch business associate. Go to Jacqueline de Bout. She is the general manager, and she will tell you the first networking event. And because you are from Holland and you speak the same language, I'm sure if she is a good general manager, she will make sure you will meet the right people. Then it's easy. She will literally take your hand and introduce you to a couple of people.
What was the last name?
Jacqueline Bout. B-A-U-D. Yeah.
Okay, here. Hello, Jennifer. Actually, you answered part of my questions, and before we know your experience. Before you work for a bank, and you experience how it works, the process, and what's the purpose when you become an entrepreneur? What's your purpose of your team building? The purpose of
The team building. The purpose of team building is it's quite straightforward. I believe 1 + 1 is 3. If you can realize that in your organization, that means from the cost perspective, you hire 2 people, but you get a productivity of 3. And also, because we are in the servicing sector, you need to communicate with each other. So team building has always been one of the goal we have to strive for, but it's easy said than done. I found out it's difficult to mangle the team, because we always employed about 4 to 5 second or third generation Chinese from Europe, and a certain time we have a Belgian and a French guy, not Chinese but Belgian French guy. So you have about 6-7 people who are really sort of westernized, and while the others they are more sort of localized. And for me it was quite a challenge how to sort of mix them, because at a certain point of time you have sort of 3 groups. You have the 2 Guilos, they stick together and because they don't speak a word Chinese, and then you have the 3 or 4 bunch of second or third generation Chinese, and they speak depending on the people. They speak Chinese or Dutch or whatever, or a mixture of. And then you have the local Chinese, and even among the local Chinese, obviously some of them they are overseas educated. They tend to be more, with the second, third generation Chinese group. They get along, and then you have the local, and then it's very difficult to mangle. And we still do every year. I try to build in some team building things, but I cannot tell whether it always has the effect as I want it to.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And my next question is just as you answered, is how to select right people towards the right position. And you tell us, teacher taught us, just find it, let the team work together, and maybe they, as a group, they can work better. And when they make mistakes, how to solve it?
I always tell them if they are new, because I also employ some fresh grad. So I said the first 3 months you are allowed to make mistake, and then the next 3 months. So you have so I make them sort of a period in which they can make some mistake. But every new employee, no matter they have working experience or not, I always tell them, if it's a problem and you put them under the carpet, it's your problem. If it's a problem and you come and discuss with me, and then it's become our problem. So by doing so, because really local staff, they have a tendency to hide the problem. And so for me, it's extremely important to diagnose the problem at the very beginning when the problem occurs. So I try to create an open atmosphere whereby people want to come to me and talk about what they bother them. Like, I don't know whether exactly that answers your question, but I must say, in some interviews, people ask me what is your biggest challenge so far, and I think finding the right people is the biggest challenge. Really, still up to today, I will ask you I will answer you the same. Finding the right talent. It is not that it's not enough talent. It is how to motivate the talent and to optimize that talent in your organization. That is very difficult. Yeah. And I'm still learning every day. Yeah.
So we move now to the big team with questions. I mean, we ended our schedule. No schedule. The chart. Now we go on to 3 questions.
Oh, okay.
Starting with the pink team.
So since we work to connect Western companies and to Asian companies, so we would like to ask, what's the biggest challenge for Western companies and Asian companies to work together?
Generally speaking, Western people tend to be sort of more direct in their dealing with Asian people, because that is sort of their culture. And but you will see obvious difference among different European countries. And the Dutch, they are very famous, that they are very direct. And in my experience, they're too direct. You can almost say they are rude, okay? And it's really borderline. The Belgium, for example, even they are very close to the Dutch. You would say are there any Belgians here? Yeah. Okay. So you would say they have a sort of similar attitude, but it's not. I learned to appreciate the Belgium as a nation when I worked for the Generaal Bank, the Fortis Bank, and they are much more modest, but still having a lot of quality. And I felt that the Belgium, they are easier to doing business with the Chinese than the Dutch. And but overall speaking, the Western people, they are more direct, and to a certain extent they tend to be more how do I say, that also changed a little bit. In the early days, in the early 90s, when I was still working in the banking sector, a lot of Western, they say, oh, I come and teach you how to do business. That is a little bit the attitude. And so you have to listen to me. You just have to listen and do exactly what I'm saying. That is basically most of the meeting went like that. Throughout the years, the attitude has changed, and they start also to listen to the Chinese and to communicate, at least to communicate. And I guess the Western people now, because of the setback at the home countries, and because they lose a little bit face of the crisis, and maybe because simply from an economic perspective, they need the Chinese. Okay, they need their investment, they need whatever. So they are starting to get more sort of humble. Maybe it's not the right word, but they start to tend to more cooperative with the Chinese. Having said that, it sounds a little bit negative, but it's not what I meant. It is also I, being a sort of half Dutch and a half Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese, I also felt I undergone a learning process in dealing with the mainland Chinese. During the break, I already explained, I really thought in all my arrogance, I'm Chinese, I speak so many languages, including Chinese, so I look Chinese, I can do everything in China. And then I learned my lesson in Shanghai when I opened my first office. And then I explored China more, and recently I went to Beijing as well, and I think it's totally different area. So the first lesson of the first golden rule I tell my Western client is that don't think China in terms of one country. Cut them in pieces. no matter you want to purchase or no matter you want to sell.
Well, so as you said, that it seems that you are very successful in your business. So could you tell me about your biggest failure in the business?
I think one of the major failure is setting up my Shanghai office.
Could you
Because
explain more?
I thought I can do it easily, and my company in Hong Kong was growing quite well, and I guess at a certain point of time I get also a little bit arrogant. I said, okay, if I can do this piece of cake, I can do it everywhere. So when I go to Shanghai, I start to negotiate, I start to hire people, and then I because the first 1.5 years it was not running very well. At the end, I need to close down the operation, and after half year to restart. That cost me quite a lot of money. And if you ask me what was the major reason, I think I a little bit overwhelmed by the success I had by that time in Hong Kong, and maybe falling into the classic trap that I know Chinese, I communicate them with the China, then I understand them, and that was a quite expensive lesson. Yeah.
So like being too proud and the communication is a reason.
Because I thought I understand them, but it's not. Yeah. Speaking the language is one thing, but understand the culture is different thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and like we know that in 2000, during 2000 and 2001, like you encounter very serious financial situation, and at that time you also got your child, and so we would like to know how did you balance your life and your work?
I mean, generally speaking, or by that time?
By that time.
By that time, no. By that time was a good thing about being in the middle of a serious crisis. I mean, for yourself, is that you don't have the luxury, you don't have the time to think about it. You just do what needs to be done, and just sort of blindly. And if I look back, that maybe also my that saved me that time. Because if you think too much in that crisis period, you may start to give up. And I think there was about 9 months' time. I can tell you, by that time I already employed a couple of staff. I need to pay out the salary later. There was maybe 2 staff I pay on time, which is the first of the payment day, and then maybe other staff I have to pay maybe 1 or 2 weeks later. Yeah, and I still remember also by that time, at the end of the month, I have to see whether there was not much money left, because you need to pay your staff first and the rental and everything. And I looked at my wallet and I said, oh, today I can only take the tram back home, because tram in Hong Kong is by far the cheapest transportation. It's only $2 Hong Kong by that time. Now it's $2.20, I think. And because if you go by minibus, it cost me $4.30. And I think by the MTR was $3.80. So just to give you the situation in which I was for a couple of months. And first of all, I think I'm a quite positive person, but even though facing this kind of situation, the only remedy for me was just continue. And I must say, if by that time I wouldn't have my little child, my daughter, I would have given up, I think. Because a newborn baby, you said, okay, if I give up, I will bankrupt, okay, I cannot do a lot of things for the coming 4 years, but still my little baby need to be fed. And so in some discussion later on of interviews, people say, oh, what is your main drive? Then I look back, I think my oldest daughter was my main drive to continue. Yeah. I know for non-parents yet, maybe it's difficult to believe, but I can, yeah. Actually, I am a person, when I met my husband, I already said I don't want kids. And we had a steady relationship for over 8-9 years. And so it was actually an accident. And then we already... yeah, I realize that it's very difficult for you to believe that. But then, but when it comes, because we already had a 8-9 years very steady relationship. By that time, it was not the best timing to have a child. But nevertheless, even though I don't have a religious background, or whether or not to have abortions, but I said, okay, let's have it. And then I really, it changed my life in different perspectives. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question is that you mentioned that when you start your first business, you already know you will sell it.
Yes.
Yeah, and so my question is, what's the difference between like starting a business that you are going to sell and starting your like lifetime business?
Don't date with your business. Don't get too much emotionally involved. Yes. Because there is a couple of times in your decision making. As an entrepreneur, you tend to be, particularly when you are the founder of that business, you tend to be sort of have an emotional bonding with your business. And that may, in some circumstances, it may work positive because you're very committed, you are very passionate about it. But in some serious decision-making process, it can block your rational view on how the company should be moved forward. And since I already made that decision starting from day one, I know I won't have any sort of emotional sort of barrier with my own business. Yeah. And that drives you also a little bit the way how you go, because one thing you have to realize, being an entrepreneur is extremely lonely. If you have no partners in your business, you are the only founder, only owner, it is extremely lonely. And even though you have senior staff to help you, but at the end of the day, you are the only one who makes the decision. And you have to bear the full responsibility for the consequence of your decision. And even though with my husband, sometimes I cannot discuss with him because he's a corporate man, he works for a big corporate, and therefore there is not a sort of a rational voice that can tell you sort of how to do. That means as an entrepreneur, you have to stay clear-minded and rational all the time. Yeah.
Okay. One last question as we're running out of time. But could we hear that elevator pitch?
An example.
Nice.
I haven't done that for a long time because a good thing is the elevator pitch is only necessary when you are just
That's our case.
yeah, I understand, but for my elevator pitch, I guess it's very rusty because I don't have to do that. No matter when I go to Holland in some occasions or in Hong Kong, for me it's more a challenge to leave the network quietly without bumping onto people and say hi. So I'm not saying this meaning arrogant, because at a certain point of time you don't have to do that, and then I must say I really don't know how to do that again.
So
Yes.
do you have tips then for the elevator pitch? Like if someone wants to do an elevator pitch to you, what do you look at? What do you find important?
I will always check whether they do their homework. I really see some fresh grad or MBA student who are almost finished their study and coming to network meetings. They don't even know who is the organization who organized this event. And then I say, just leave it. If you don't want to bother to do your homework, then it's no use for you to come here. Yeah, and the same more or less apply with the people who come to interview the job. And you would be amazed how many fresh grad, and I'm talking about MBA students, who come not prepared coming to the interview and for a job. And if you know the theme, normally in such a networking event there is a speaker, and the speaker talks about a certain topic. So normally you will receive a flyer with some basic background information about the speaker. So logically, you would expect people who come to this event is somehow interested either in the person, the speaker, or in the topic. So you have to make sure you know a little bit about the topic. And then you start with the person and say, oh, that was a good speech, isn't it? And so talking about the renminbi in the coming 2-3 years, and and then hopefully you do some, you have your own opinion, okay? It does not need to be very in-depth, okay? And then you start, oh, how do you think about it? And what do you think? Do these things right, not? And so you say, and always, of course, the open questions. Not the closed questions where the counterpart only can say yes or no and then they walk away.
So basically, don't go straight to business. Just like warm it up.
Oh yeah. Don't be too eager. Sometimes you have all those over eagerness. What you wait a minute, you say. So there's a sort of balance, and it also depends whether it's a lady or a man. And I felt it's a lady. Normally they are a little bit sort of more accommodating. At least they will finish your question before she leaves. While some men, they can really, hi. You see, maybe you have to pick the right target. Yeah. And I found you have to start with some common thing, and common thing is always the speaker or the organization. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any particular other message that you want to transmit us?
I think because my original topic would be cross-cultural. I think don't fall in the trap. Doing business is human business, no matter whether you are in a product or in a service, and the world is getting smaller and smaller. You are dealing with various culture, and it pays off to. It's also a lesson I give to my Western clients to do a little bit study on the country you want to do business with, like in China, and maybe not only on the business side, but also some people will feel genuinely whether you are interested. And I think China has a great history, and we have a lot of interesting things, valuable things you can learn from. And if you can, by doing so, also benefit from your business, you should do that. And it's changing all the time. And maybe again I have to say, China is not one country. Even I felt if I'm doing business in Beijing or in Shanghai or in across the border, it's totally different. So it is an extremely challenging country to do business with, but so far I think very rewardful. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. It's been an honor to meet you and to assist at this speech, because it was a lot of information and a lot of flexibility from you to speak about everything, and we're really grateful that you came here and shared this with us.
Okay, no, it's my great honor to share my experience with you guys and all listening to me, and also to share your questions, which is very interesting. And so may I know, just to have an idea, who from you are from Europe? Okay, and some Belgium, some Dutch, Portugal, and Germany. I see. Okay, and some of them China, right?
Yes.
Also Hong Kong student?
No, mainland.
Mainland.
Mainland
Hong
student
Kong.
in Hong Kong.
Okay. Look. I see. Yeah. And most of you are about to graduate?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And what are your ambitions with China? Who wants to do anything, doing business or working in China or Hong Kong?
Someone is doing research in China.
Okay. But do it's because you really like the country, or because by lack of other opportunities in your country?
I like it.
You
I
really
like
like
it.
it? Yeah? Okay. Yeah.
I think for a lot of us it might be a good combination to, as well as you did, between the Netherlands and China, to combine these two experiences. I think a lot of us have also these kind of two experiences in life, either through studies or through really well living here. So combining these two knowledges, combining these histories, these two hearts in one body is the best thing.
I see. And if I may give you a tip, in the old days, I was working for inbound China business, helping European companies going into China. But I guess nowadays you should have to focus the other way around as well. So the outbound China business is huge. And everybody is focusing on that part as well. So don't limit yourself into one way. China has many opportunities in many ways. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask, but questions in general. You're involved in 4 different companies, as I see from your LinkedIn. When one you are in financial department, the other one you are founder, CEO.
Yeah.
How do you do your time management? Meaning, is it structured or not? And if it's structured, how? Like the morning you do one company, the afternoon you do another one, and or the weekend, or you
Not
do everything at the
necessary,
same
because
time?
there's always a common thing in all those activities I do. So for some event you go there, maybe you go in the different hats for 3 different companies, and I try to, but I must admit I don't have the discipline. I try to sort of focus on Monday, at this time slot I will do that and that. But when on the other days there's the same request on that company comes, I will still deal with it. And with the email nowadays, and it is very easy. I never felt I have short of time, because it is, how do I say, time management. I never felt that is an issue, because we can make use of the time difference. When I get back home, I try to get back home at latest at 7, because then I still want to say goodnight to the kids before they go to bed, and then I continue at 9:30. And Europe is just still in the afternoon. I can still work with them. And no, it's how do you say? It is amazing to see how different. In the first sight, how different activities I am working with, how closely linked they are at the end of the day. Yeah.
But then if you work until 7 and then from 9:30 again, I mean, like, you're working all day.
No, it is how you look at it. You just check the email maybe for half an hour, and then you shut down your BlackBerry. Is that working? I think also entrepreneur, you don't have the illusion. It's 9 to 5 job, right? But a good thing is, I can tell you, every year I take 5 weeks holiday. Every year I take 5 weeks summer holiday with my kids, and then I spend 5 weeks with them. And sometime in Europe. Last year we went to Alaska and to Canada, and that is the luxury you can have as an entrepreneur. And it is just how you manage your time. And I guess every sort of maybe you have to trust your people. In the old days, I have 37 people working in Hong Kong, right? And you have to trust your staff to manage the thing. They have a great authority. They can sign the check. I mean, people are asking me, some of my friends, how can you sort of the whole account? You mean 2 staff, they can operate the bank account you have. And do you trust it? I said, you cannot do anything if you don't trust your own staff, I guess.
Do you think it was essential for your career that you were working before you started your own business?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. I truly believe I wouldn't be able to achieve what I have, achieved without the experience working for the bank.
Okay.
Yes, it is essential.
I think it is clear that it marked you in a precise way. I mean,
Yes.
for me, I work in a bank. It's clear that you come from a banking background.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And compared also to other speakers that we had here,
Okay.
it's a different way to approach things.
Okay.
I mean, this I feel it this way. I don't know the others.
I see. I felt maybe it should not have 10 years, maybe 5 years. I don't know. It just happened to be. But I always recommend because I already get sort of you grad friends from my friends, the children from my friends who graduate, and they come go to Auntie Jennifer and ask for some advice. And then because they are still sort of, most of the time their parents, they have their own business. So what to do? Should I go to my parents' company? Or I always advise them, try to work for a large corp for 2 to 3 years. You have to learn the structure, not the mentality. I don't know. You have to learn a structured way how to plan your business. Because a person who haven't worked for a big company and then jump into the entrepreneurship, they can be very successful, nothing wrong about it, but unless they are able to hire very professional people in a crucial growth pain of the company, and on timely, they do it and hire professional to help them. Otherwise, I foresee a big problem in the growing pains of a company. Yeah, and if you have worked for a large corp, you will anticipate much quicker those problems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And following on that question, isn't it dangerous that dangerous, I mean not dangerous, but that's like, isn't it a risk that you will get like the golden handcuffs, as they say, and that you will stay working forever and the company never stops?
Oh, I did! When I left my company, which was, last September, and in fact, the offer is great. I mean, then I get another offer to become sort of, because they were in the middle of taking over another company, so they will become quite big. And they asked me to stay for 3 million Hong Kong dollar a year. So basically, with the bonus and everything, it's it sounds pretty attractive. But then I don't have to think for 1 second. I immediately say no. And it really depends what you want to be with your entrepreneurship. Is that the money you look for? Is that the freedom? What is what? And I enjoy very much the entrepreneurship, the freedom to experience maybe a lot of things. And my husband would never do that. He said, "Oh, if somebody give me 3 million to stay, then I will do it." But so that there's no value judgment in there. You have to listen to your heart, what you like. There was no reason for me to leave the bank. I'm sure if I maybe 10 years down the road I took over the regional CEO's role, maybe, okay, and I also would have earned maybe even more than 3-4 million Hong Kong dollar a year. So that makes you happier? I don't know. And I do see a lot of my ex-colleagues in the bank and who really just go there. It's a job. They don't.
I don't mean it in happiness as for the money itself, but that you, for example, have a mortgage, kids that have to be fed. So in that.
I know, you get trapped in
emotional,
a very comfortable situation. I can tell you, by leaving the bank at that time, I accept a very comfortable environment. I also lose my right as a bank staff and a very attractive housing loan. Because as a bank staff, you enjoy a very low interest rate for your housing loan. So once I move out and I become an entrepreneur, I need to pay a market mortgage interest rate. And but yeah, that's a package deal. And if you really want to go for something, I think you have to go for it. Yeah. And I also got some, particularly the first year, I got a lot of gossip from old colleagues who, for whatever reason, they don't like me, and they said, you see, and it's a stupid thing to do, and you see, and because the first year was not running that well, and they also see, and people gossip a lot, and oh, it's a very stupid thing to do, and I will never do that, and for what, and no reason. You have to overcome this kind of thing, and at the end of the day, it makes you stronger. Yeah.
Very last question.
Thanks. So my name is Philip. So I'm a Hong Kong resident, but I'm studying in the United States. I'm majoring in chemistry and biological physics. So I'm coming from a STEM background, and I've always thought about like starting up my own business in the tech sector. But I've always worried about like how to manage my finances, and I've been to like various networking events, and I worked at a summer intern at a office space where it ran for startups, and I met a lot of people, and I found out that several like startup people that I met, they do have a banking background, and I'm just wondering like if I'm really interested in science and I really want to, and I'm really passionate about it, I really want to learn about how to manage like finances in a startup company. What should I do?
You live in Hong Kong, right?
No, I'm actually just here. I'm back here for vacation, but I'm studying in the United States.
Then I need to know a little bit more about your background, and I can give you my name card. If you maybe early next week, if you come to my office, then I can tell you a little bit more about it. I mean, it's more in the. I like to do that. This is also I also see as a part of my job. I do get very often referral from the Dutch Business Association, and I felt I love to nurture next generation. If with my experience and I can do something in return, I would be really glad. And if you have time early next week, you come to my office and then we can have a chat. Because it's very difficult to just bluntly say which is the right thing. I need to know a little bit about what you want to do. Very last one.
Okay, go. Go for the last question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you just said that people start gossiping. I was just reading that Lean In book from Sandy Sheryl Sandberg, and she was saying exactly the same. Like she said that women, the higher positions they get in, the harder it gets, and the more people start disliking women because there are very few women in board like. Positions.
Yeah.
So is it exactly the same that you? But she said what you said as well, that especially in Western countries it's harder than in Asian countries, what no one would actually think. But is that what you think as well?
No, it's everywhere the same. Yeah. And I have no illusion that only female encounter that problem.
Okay.
Only the male counterpart, they have the same. They may not talk about it because it's not macho, maybe, I don't know, but they encounter exactly the same.
So there's always jealousy.
There's always jealousy, yes.
Thank you.
In Chinese, we have a saying, you need not be afraid to be jealous by other people because they only do that with outstanding people. Maybe that gives a little bit comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.